There is no guarantee for success, but there are ways to get closer to it when you do the right things. Who you surround yourself with is just as important as what you do. Finding the right people, the right classes, the right activities, and taking the right tests are all decisions that shape your future. Find out more today on Destination University with Dr. Cynthia Colon. Dr. Colon and her guests will give you the tips you need, whether you're a student, parent, or educator. Now, here is your host, Dr. Cynthia Colon.
Welcome to Destination University. If you are a college-bound teen or a champion of one, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. We are running a special series right now, interviewing real teens with real dreams who have been admitted to college. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia Colon, author of the book Be Committed, Get Admitted, and the founder of Dream College Academy and College Essay Bootcamp. Wherever you are tuning in from today, you are in for a treat. Grab your beverage of choice and a notepad because you are going to hear some golden nuggets from our big star today, Matteo. Today, you'll learn what Matteo did right, if he has any regrets at all, and he's going to reveal the dream college that he is going to be attending. So let's get to it. And hello, Matteo. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. My name is Matteo, everyone, and I am a real teen with real dreams. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing good today.
Oh, good. Well, Matteo, as I said, we don't interview everybody every year, and you were someone special from the time I met you. So I'm happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Students from all over the country. So share with our viewers and listeners literally where you're from, what school you go to, and maybe a little bit about your family.
All right. So I'm from Oakland, California, the biggest, city in the Bay Area besides San Francisco and San Jose. So basically the Bay Area. I go to Oakland Technical High School. It's just my local public school down the street. I graduate tomorrow. And my family, my dad is an Italian immigrant, and my mom is Nicaraguense or Nicaraguan, born in San Francisco, and both of her parents are immigrants from Nicaragua. So I don't know if that makes me first gen, second gen, first and a half gen, but we're definitely pretty new to the States.
Yeah. Oh, I love this story already. So I told you guys you were in for a treat. We like to jump in with sort of the juicy stuff. Our listeners and viewers, they want to know where you've been admitted. So we'll start there without revealing where you're going to, where you're choosing. But share with us maybe, how you came to your list of colleges and where you've been admitted.
Okay. So I think anyone watching this that is from California either knows now or is eventually going to come to the conclusion that California is the best state. And so I'm a California boy, even though, first gen, second gen, third gen, whatever. But this is my home. I love Oakland and I love California. I have family in LA. I have family in San Diego. So we've been all around, and it's an unbeatable state. I went to the East Coast one time too when I was touring colleges, and it was nice, and the cities were nice, but it wasn't the same. And so when I was picking my list, the first thing I knew is that I wanted to stay home and I wanted to stay here in California. I did put, I think, like 2 or 3 schools in the East Coast on my list just in case I, changed my mind or wanted to try something really new. But most of the schools I applied to were in California. And especially too, another benefit of living here is that we probably have the best public colleges, or not probably, we do. California has the best public colleges in America. There's Berkeley, UCLA. Those are the 2 best public schools for college in America. And even like the quote unquote lower tier of the UCs or even state schools are really good colleges, comparatively and non-comparatively. So the schools like Cal Poly SLO is like an amazing business and engineering school, which is like another public school in California. So that has that benefit as well of, being more accessible, being cheaper and, for California residents, obviously. So most of the schools, probably like 75% were in state. That was the number one thing. And then the number 2 thing, so I'm kind of rambling here, but the number 2 thing is that I love the Bay Area and I love Oakland. Obviously, I've lived here my whole life, but I was definitely ready to try something new. And so, when you put those two things together, being in California, wanting to stay in California, but wanting to go somewhere new, there's kind of the 2 or 3 parts of California, Northern California, where I'm from, Central and Southern. So I knew I wanted to go to Central California or Southern California, which left me with top choices like, UCSD, UCLA, Cal Poly SLO, UCSB, San Diego State, stuff like that. So those were probably some of my top favorites.
Now, I love what you just said. I'm not sure if you caught it, those of you who are listening or watching. Matteo said, gosh, you're like a commercial for California. He gave a lot of good reasons why, it is the best public system in the country, probably in the world. And so if you're a resident of California, obviously that good price point for having that. But you said, but I applied to a few out of state just in case I changed my mind. So parents, if you're listening, be sure, I usually tell my parents of my private clients, I say, days, weeks, months in a teenager's life is like dog years.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know what's happening in the fall of senior year. You could change your mind. So it's always good to have a little bit of a sort of a backup plan. But it sounds like you had a number of options in California. You named several of them that were options to you. And then you were also admitted on the East Coast to a few schools, correct? Which ones were those?
Yeah, so I applied to Brown, Northeastern, and UConn, and I got into Northeastern early action. I got into UConn, and then I was rejected from Brown. So I had two out of 3 of my options on the East Coast. I could have gone to Connecticut, or I could have gone to Boston.
Wow, and Northeastern is no easy school to get into. So yeah, so you did quite well. You had plenty of options. So okay, I can't wait for you to tell us what you chose and why. So the first question really is about, people who are watching or listening to this, they are usually at the beginning of their journey, somewhere, between, middle school, maybe all the way to junior and even into senior year. So looking back on your 4 years, what did you do right? What kind of advice would you give to someone who's just getting started?
The thing I did right is, just that, doing, right? So what I did right is just doing and trying as much new stuff as possible. I never waited. I took internships whenever I can. A lot of public schools here have like job boards or internship boards, college and career centers. So I know mine had there's a designated person named Mr. Holiday who basically his whole job is to try and get kids internships in my school district. Uh-huh. And so, I talked to him and he has this big list. I applied to a couple and I ended up getting one with what happened actually is I applied for one with like a small investment banking company. Yeah. And I didn't get it, but Mr. Holiday, the guy that he referred me to, like the hiring manager for these types of companies, he liked me a lot from my interview. So he emailed me with another internship opportunity that he had. And I ended up getting a summer internship at BlackRock, which is like the biggest company in the world. So I got to shadow, like the VPs of the company and, the executives of the company and like learn from them, right? Some of the most, successful people in the whole financial industry. And I got paid to do it too. I got paid more than I make right now at my job to be an intern and learn about investing, money, marketing, all those types of things. So you're not going to find an opportunity like that if you're not looking for it. And, things aren't going to be given to you, especially if you're at a public school with like 500 other kids. My class is about 500 kids. And that internship could have gone to any of the 500 kids. I was the only kid from Oakland that ended up being in that internship. It was, there were a lot of college students too. So I was one of the only high schoolers, if not the only high schooler. So it was kids from San Francisco, New York, and then it was me from Oakland. But that goes to say that opportunity was available to, plenty of kids in Oakland, but I was the one that went and sought it out. And I was the one that, followed through, and by taking that leap, got that opportunity. So also just like doing things you like. It doesn't have to be like an internship, but putting yourself out there. And this is what really any person will tell you. I hear this now from a lot of college students now that I'm going to college. I can tell this to any younger high school student. Adults tell this to other adults, is put yourself out there. It may be scary. It may be concern, it could be any amount of things. I'm not someone who likes to put myself out there a lot, but, only good things can come from putting yourself out there. You get shot down one time like I did, and then you get picked up one time and you get a great opportunity. But that only happens if you put yourself out there.
Yeah, let's really drive this point home, because I think there's a theme here in your life and through your journey. But if you missed it, you really want to, what I heard Matteo just say is that he took advantage. First of all, not every high school has this kind of internship, program so robust with someone who's dedicated to that. But he does, and he went and he sought out that teacher who's in charge of that. He applied for things, and then he didn't. He did the interview. He didn't get that particular internship, but then was recommended and followed up and follow through. So I heard you say, take action, put yourself out there, follow up and follow through. And I think that's really, really good advice. Now, I know I'm not completely sure how they're all connected, but I know from that internship, Matteo, how did that influence, what you want to major in? And then you also did some of your own investing and stuff like that. So tell us how that led to other things in your life.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted an internship in the financial industry in the first place is because I was really interested in, investing and making money and stuff like that. And kind of as I grew older, I realized, and, I'm still realizing now, there's so much money in the world. And then, the average person has, barely any money. And compared to these people like, people that work at BlackRock, that have all this money at their fingertips, billions of dollars in investments. And I was just curious how it worked, because I didn't really know anything. And so what I tried to do was, like Dr. C said, is take advantage of what I had. And, that's another thing too, right? If you don't have, you don't have any, opportunities like that at your school, you can always start your own thing or go on like Indeed or like something like that. But anyway, back to what I was saying. When my mom was a kid, she was here in San Francisco, and she had two parents who were basically broke. Neither of them spoke English, and she took advantage of the opportunities she had. For example, like a fee waiver on the UC application, and, got herself to this point in life to be able to give me that next step and provide for me and my little brother. And now it's my turn to take advantage of the opportunities I have. And every kid has this opportunity, is, our cell phones, people, and the internet and computers, whatever you may have, in this age, a lot of people use their phones for like, Instagram or stuff like that. But, at that time, I didn't even have Instagram. I was using my phone as a source of information, because there's so much information out there. And you can really literally go on, YouTube, Google, and teach yourself things that in the past, you had to have like a big connection or know like a top, we'll use financial industry as an example. In the past, you may have had to have interned at BlackRock and worked your way up the totem pole and, learned things over the course of 20 years. Whereas now you can, if you grind it out for, a month, you can literally go and online and find out all the same information and teach yourself anything you want to know in any industry. You can teach yourself how to do almost anything. And that age of information is something that no one before my generation had access to at all. So we already have a huge advantage and a huge head start at our age.
And you went on and you started like little businesses and you invested money, right? Share with the audience, how you have already taken that opportunity and, multiplied and leveraged the knowledge you have.
Yeah. So I literally did what I said. I went online and I taught myself how to invest, how to open an account. I was a kid at the time. So, how to open a custodial account, I went and got, my mom signed off on it and stuff like that. So you can be like 14 years old and open an investment account. I taught myself how to analyze markets. I would go on Yahoo and learn how to forecast and see, what experts are saying. And I did all those kinds of things, and I taught myself how to invest, and I built an investment portfolio that I still have today.
Wow.
And I don't touch, I only add to it when I can. And because of that, in 50 years, who knows how much money might be in there, because at the end of the day, unless there's like a really bad, event or like a market crash, the market as a whole is going to appreciate over time. So another thing that we have to take advantage of, especially you guys who may be younger than me, is time. I told this to my little brother yesterday, is that if he, he may get like some money for like his birthday or whatever. And, if he's smart with that, or if he's not just money, but if he's smart with the opportunities that come in, and he takes advantage of all the resources that he has the one resource that I'll never have back, and that, my mom will never have back, which is time. My brother has 5 more years than me till he gets to the point that I'm at right now. And in those 5 years, who knows what can happen. So take advantage of your time, because that's the only thing in the whole world that you can't buy, and the only thing that the richest people or anyone would trade. Like, this is what I literally told my little brother, is that Warren Buffett, who's like one of the most successful investors of all time, he's a billionaire, would switch places with my little brother if he could, and become 70 years younger and do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good advice. You're right. Time is the only thing you cannot buy and you cannot get back. So yes. Ooh. All right. We are rolling. Matteo, you've already shared so many things about, what makes you special, and the things that you've done, out of investing and out of that one little opportunity that, the internship and what that turned into. But you actually are so much more than that. So, you have a highlight reel, right? If we could show your highlight reel here to our viewers and listeners, what does that include? What are some of the highlights that you look back and you're really proud of?
One thing I'm really proud of is that, I was talking about how you can do things and make money and learn new things on your phone. I use like a clothing sales app, and I went on there and used my, sales experience, marketing experience. And I like took pictures of a bunch of my old clothes. I would go to like thrift stores or, Goodwill outlets, here in California, they're called the bins, and get like cheap stuff for like $1. Like have like pants for like $1. And, that's another thing I taught myself. I'd go online, and since I knew how to analyze markets at that point, that knowledge can apply to anything. So I analyzed clothing markets, and I'm like, what stuff is trending up? What stuff is selling? So I basically started an online clothing business where I could sell some of the old stuff like that didn't fit me anymore, I didn't want. I could go out and get new stuff for really cheap and then flip it online for way more. I think this was on my UC application that my best flip at the time was a pair of jeans that I got at the Goodwill outlet for $1. So, literally $1. And I sold them like 2 days later for $70, something like that, which is like 700% profit margin or something like that. So it's really impressive, the types. And this isn't 7,000, maybe, I don't know. But these aren't things that are exclusive to me. And, there's like a platform, there's like Grailed and Depop. These are just platforms that anyone can go on and literally do exactly what I did and teach yourself how to do it. And I've, ended up making thousands of dollars and, in just 2 years, basically. And the other main thing that I spent the last couple years doing is I started a nonprofit organization. And I know that may sound like, oh my gosh, like you started a nonprofit organization, but this is like another thing, like, yes, I did it, but it's not something that like only I can do. When I speak to parents and stuff like that, they're like, oh my gosh, like that's so difficult. Like, how did you do that? Like, you're so impressive. And I'm like, sorry. I'm like, the only reason that it was me and it wasn't a classmate or, a coworker or a friend is because I went and did it. There's nothing special that goes into it. If your nonprofit makes less than a certain amount of money in donations, it's like literally a 2-page, 10-question questionnaire. You submit it to the IRS. And since it's a small nonprofit, you get fast tracked, and we got approved in 2 months. We were a 501c3, which is a federally designated charity, which got us, a lot of brownie points in the community. People were like, oh my gosh, like a 501c3. And then from there, we had all the momentum that we needed because it was a 501c3 ran by kids. I started it. I brought some of my classmates, some of my friends on. And so we've had it for about 1.5 years now. And it's definitely, my favorite thing that I've done. I'm really proud of the work we've been able to do. We do work all across Oakland. It's called Oakland Student Service, or oaklandstudentservice.org is our website. And we've been able to, for example, like we've given food to, hundreds of kids in Oakland that literally had no food. We've taught like science lessons to, kids at some of the worst public schools in Oakland. We were able to, give them like a hands-on, like fancy science lesson with like cool experiments and stuff like that. And the kids love it. At the end of the day, kids always like, oh my gosh, like I want to be a scientist now. And, things like that, whatever it may be, we've cleaned up parks and stuff like that. But again, these aren't crazy or outlandish ideas.
Right.
They're just things that get done by a vision. And then like Dr. C said, following up and following through.
Yeah.
I had an idea, and, I could have sat on that idea for years and be like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to do a nonprofit, led by students. Yeah. Like that's cool. Maybe I'll do it, when I go to college or something. I could have done that, but instead I literally had the idea, and I was like, okay, what do I have to do to make this a real thing?
Well, again, following up, following through. And as you said, Matteo, like anyone could do, like, it does feel like, oh, what makes you so special? Like, look at what Matteo did. And anyone can do this. Is open to anyone. And in business, they say, like whatever idea you're having right now, some idea to solve a problem, or, whoever came up with the, whatever, the plastic grocery bag or the paper, whatever it is, someone else is somewhere also having that same idea.
Yeah.
It's the only difference is who's going to actually take action to get it done.
I agree. The only thing that makes me special is my mindset. And that's something that any kid, adult, or human being can have, is a certain mindset. Mm-hmm. And then if you have a certain mindset, you can do anything you want to do, because you'll just literally go do it no matter what it takes.
That's a good, nice transition for us to transition into sort of like your actual college application journey. And because we were introduced about 1.5 years ago or so, and that's when we met. So this mindset, because I believe the first thing that any student needs to have in order for you to really access top 100 colleges, really the very elite colleges, you really have to have a good mindset. So I know you transitioned from a private school to a public school between middle and high school. And where does that mindset come from?
I think it comes from my family, more than anything. Obviously, someone's family or whoever's around them, especially in their formative years as a child, is going to be the people you take influence the most, from, whether it be good or bad. Someone might, have like a bad relationship with their parents and, ends up bad, or someone might have a good relationship with their parents and ends up bad. But I'm not really speaking on a relationship. Just seeing how my parents and my grandparents and my, cousins, and how different family members behaved, and, studying that, not really studying them, but just seeing and growing up with it, especially my mom and my dad, who are two polar opposites. I would say I'm a little more like my mom, who's, I'd say if like her motto would be, work smarter, not harder. Yeah. And then my dad is the complete opposite, work harder, not smarter. He's, he's European. He's very like hands-on, like get this done, grind it out, and he's like respect, discipline, like, your typical, father, dad, whatever. And then my mom is more like fun, like yeah, like I'll just take the day off work, like let's go to lunch, or like not like take the day off work, but like, oh yeah, like let's go to lunch and like hang out. And kind of like what she's the one that, yeah, she's the one that taught me about, you know, what I said about time, is that it's time is so much more valuable than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, because I could have been working, just as an example. I could go to work for 2 extra hours, or I could go get lunch with my mom and have that memory forever. Right. And, you know, at the end of the day, like I'll work maybe, you know, 10 or 20 jobs in my life, but I'll only have one mom, and I'll only get to be with her for so long.
Oh.
So just learning, taking from two completely different ideologies, but really, if you break it down, you know, they're not so different, and their values, you know, hard work from my dad and smart work from my mom, as an example. You know, there's plenty of other things I learned from them, obviously, throughout my whole life, but, you know, combining those two, as an example, is what gave me the mindset I have today. Because, you know, my dad works hard. For this is still an example. My dad works hard, it only gets him so far. My mom works smart, it only gets her so far. But if I can do both, then I can go twice as far.
Oh, that's really good thinking. Now, it sounds to me like you know, there are two types of students. Some that are, you know, very focused on like they're gonna apply to the top schools and that's their goal. And it doesn't seem to me that you had that like specific goal, but you were doing all the things that made you happy, that brought you joy, that also happened to be really good things to continue to add to your resume, and you know, and obviously you had the academics going for you already. So am I right? Were you super focused, or were you like just doing Matteo?
I was just living life. You know, I was never super like, oh my gosh, like I have to learn how to play piano so I can get into Harvard. You know, that's really something that I also really believe in. So I'm glad you asked the question, because I want to say that you can do both. And I think that really, if you really like, is your goal is to get into like a really, you know, prestigious college or whatever, the most important part is, or sorry, not the most important part, the only part is your application. And within that application, you're basically pitching yourself to the admissions community. And, you know, they've been doing it for years. They can tell if like, oh yeah, this is like a really cool person who does what they love, and is dedicated and this and that, versus like, oh, this is someone who's doing all the right things and wants to get into this college. And like the reason I started my nonprofit, for example, was not to get into, you know, a good college. It was just because that's something I wanted to do for a long time. Maybe not that specifically, but I've always, ever since I was young, you know, volunteered and done everything I can to help other people around me in my community. Especially because, you know, like I said, the way I was raised, you know, my family, you know, is a generation away from poverty. And so I'm being blessed enough to be able to help other people. You know, why wouldn't I? Right. So the nonprofit, for example, came more from a place of like, this is something I want to do for myself and for others. You know, I wasn't thinking about college when I started it. And, you know, that's just how the cards fell, because at the end of the day, the story and the pitch that I presented to the the admissions committees at colleges, it was something organic, and it was real, and it was a cohesive story of a kid who sets his minds to things and gets it done, but always finds time to do what he loves.
Yeah. Well, and like, I like that you said that you can do both. Like you know, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but you were on a path. And, you know, the OSS was started, you know, as I understand it, like you saw a problem. Like there are students that need community service hours, you know, for school or for a requirement. And, you know, there are plenty of organizations in Oakland that need help. So, you know, you were just sort of being the matchmaker of those two. So you were solving a problem.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing I want to bring up, see if you can tie this together. You know, I think that the word networking is sort of like an adult thing. We talk about, oh, you know, we go to, you know, we network and we go to maybe happy hour after work. And, you know, you always have to be meeting people, and, you know, you never, or you go to the, you know, to play golf or whatever. And there's something about you that's sort of a natural networker, and you keep, I feel like, I know that you worked for the mayor, or in the city council's office, and you always just kind of keep in touch with or make connections with adults that sometimes leads to other opportunities. So can you just share with, you know, those who are listening, who are young or even adults, but, you know, is it scary to, like, you know, talk to an adult? Like, how did you kind of overcome that?
It was never scary for me, but I know a lot of people are, you know, scared. A lot of my friends don't like talking to adults at all, but, you know, I'm just a talker. But what I can say is that, you know, just being yourself and being genuine, you know, a lot of adults, like when you're talking to an adult, you know, they're not looking for anything out of you. They're not expecting you to be like a big, you know, business person or like anything like that. But what they can do is they will be able to tell if you're being, you know, genuine with them, if you're being real with them. And that's another thing my parents taught me is, you know, being kind to every single person I meet.
Yeah.
No matter who they are.
Yeah.
Right. And not just to, you know, gain a step, because, you know, there's always a story, like you may have heard, like, oh yeah, you know, be kind to someone, you know, you never know who they are. That's not it at all. Be kind to someone because it's the right thing to do. And, you know, if you're really looking for like a, you know, professional opportunity out of it, then you're coming into it with the wrong intentions. And something that's gotten me pretty far is being genuinely kind and talking to everyone I meet. Like, you know, for example, I work at a smoothie shop, and, you know, someone comes in and gets a smoothie and they have like a funny area code when I'm typing in their phone number. And I'm like, oh, that's like a cool area code. Where's that from? And, you know, it's not like I want to, you know, end up doing a business deal with them. It's just like talking to people and connecting, right? That's connections, is literally connecting with others, no matter who they are. And, you know, they might remember me. They might not, you know, they might like me and like what I have to say and want to be involved with me, you know, business wise. They might not, you know, they might text me and say happy birthday. You know, they might never talk to me again, but it doesn't matter, because that's more of just like the putting yourself out there thing. And then, you know, if something's going to come your way, it will. And if something doesn't, you know, you met a cool person and you had a cool conversation, and, you know, you might've made their day by being nice and talking to them.
One of the things I remember most about you is you were part of our Dream College Academy about a year ago. And there's always one or two students. There's always a number of students in the program, but there's always like one or two that are like, hey, you know, who's that person that we met? You know, who was our guest speaker? I want to send them a, you know, thank you or whatever. And you were one of those that you always wanted to sort of know how you could follow up with, you know, our guests. And I think that there's always a student or two, and they're always, they're the ones that stick out for me. Like I always remember Cosette from a couple of years ago. One of our guests was from Disney, and she had a dream of working for Disney in animation, and she followed up and followed up and followed up and had a meeting with one of the animators there. So, which, you know,
that's awesome.
So you did the same. You did the same thing, which we'll talk about as we get closer to when you reveal, because I think that had something to do with that. So let's, you know, we like to just, if you don't mind sharing, you know, like, is there anything that you would do differently? I mean, if you're being honest about looking back, I mean, so far it sounds like you did everything right, but is there anything that, you know, maybe I don't know, that you feel like you would change if you had to do it again?
I would do more. I would talk to more people. You know, I would make more friends. I would, you know, look at more internships, because I really didn't, you know, my freshman year, I was just kind of hanging out. My sophomore year, it was kind of COVID. And then like halfway through my sophomore year is actually when I started being like, okay, like I'm stuck in the house. Like I literally just do Zoom school in the morning, and then I'd sit around all day, or I go play basketball. So like, it's time to start doing something. And so that's when I started actually doing stuff, I enrolled in a economics class at a local community college. That's when I started doing the investing. That's when I basically started doing other stuff like that. But it was that year and a half where I wasn't doing anything. And it's not like you should force yourself to go take a job because you think it'll look good for college. It doesn't have to be a job. It doesn't have to be, you should literally do whatever you love, and you shouldn't be, scared or worried about doing it. You should literally just do it. Like my freshman year, I could have, like I said, I like playing basketball. I could have started a basketball club and, play pickup games after school, for example. Like it literally just doing what you love, and starting as early as possible. We spoke about the value of time, and then you start, say, something in your freshman year, just doing something cool. And then sophomore year, you build on it. Junior year, you build on it. Senior year, you build on it. And now you have like something that you actually really do and take seriously. And you have, more importantly, you have a story, and you have, kind of these building blocks of, for me, for example, in terms of community service, it could be like my freshman year, I was a busboy and served meals to homeless people a couple of days before Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving meals. I was a busboy, so I'll go clean the tables, I would bring their plates out, I would take their orders. So I did that freshman year, but it was nothing too serious. I just went a couple times. I would go to the food bank and stuff like that, right? And then sophomore year, I started going out doing more stuff like that. And then junior year, I started a nonprofit, and then I kept building up and up. Every time we did something new with the nonprofit, it was grander, more people would come. And so those building blocks give me not only experience and not only the ability to do something I love and express myself and help the community, which are all great things, but when we're talking about the realms of college applications, it gives me a story. Look at how I built myself up by doing, and look where I'm at now. And not just that, but here are all the stories I have to tell from my experiences, right? So like in the essays I wrote about, I don't remember what I wrote about specifically, but I know I wrote about the charity. I wrote about, interacting with, the kids that we helped out and stuff like that, right? These are experiences now that I wrote one essay. I don't know if I ended up using it, about when we did our food drive and we had to, we were running late. So we had to run to my friend's house where we were storing all the food, and literally in his basement, and run up and down his stairs and load the car and then rush to the school, set up. We had a bunch of like fruit and stuff like that. Obviously the fruit wasn't stored in the basement, it was fresh. But we had a bunch of fruit and stuff like that. We set all the tables up, and it was a stressful, blurry 3 hours. And then at the end, you have little kids walking up and being like, thank you so much. Like, and then it's all worth it. And then there's your story.
Well, okay, first of all, the fact that you said you wish you would have done more. I don't think I can't remember someone who is equally as qualified and accomplished as you are that said, I wish I would have done more. So that's interesting. But I guess, maybe freshman year. But here's the real thing I want our listeners to take away is you said earlier, you go to freshman year and you start something, and if you build and you build and you build, you can look back and say to colleges, look, this is where I started. This is where I am. This is what I did. This is what I accomplished. And the application, one of the goals of the application is to provide evidence that you are who you say you are, and you will do what you say you want to do. So if you're saying, right. Which leads us to the next question, which is, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like everybody's listening, probably thinking, oh, this Matteo's, going to major in business, or he's doing, he's going to do something. So what did you say, or what kind of, what major, what was important to you in terms of looking for ultimately choosing a college? Was major important? Are you wanting to start a business? Tell us what you're doing.
I wasn't too concerned with a major. I knew I just wanted to do, maybe communications, business, media, something like that, wherever I went. I wasn't too fixated on the major. Real quick, I wanted to say that, I lost track of my thoughts. So I'll go back and say, when I'm looking at colleges, important things to me were the school and the community of the school. you know, school spirit, stuff like that. You know, a lot of people like going to football games and stuff. I always thought that was cool. Definitely location was probably the biggest thing for me.
Right.
I wanted to go to like a beautiful Santa Barbara type of place, or like a big city like LA. So that was definitely a big, you know, factor for me. UCSB, USC, UCLA were three of my top choices when applying, just because of, you know, where they were. And then obviously it was a little bit of a prestige thing too. I wanted to go somewhere where I could be challenged education wise. And it was also an opportunities thing. So I wanted to go somewhere with good, you know, career potential. Like, for example, going to UCLA, where there's a city of LA, or like USC or something, or LMU has higher career potential than going to Cal Poly Humboldt, where there's less companies, for example. I love Cal Poly Humboldt. It's a really nice school, but that's just an example.
Yeah.
Right. And not just that, but also like opportunities for like cool classes, like for example, UCSB has a surfing class, like that's awesome. Opportunities for like USC's open curriculum, for example, where you don't have to be in a specific major to take a specific class. Like I could be a film major and take a business class. And a lot of colleges don't have that, actually.
Right.
So opportunity.
Brown had that too. I know Brown.
Brown had that as well. Yeah. Opportunity and location were probably the two biggest things. And then number three was like probably the level of education and I don't want to say prestige, but like the quality of education at the school. Okay,
so that leads us to the drum roll. I want you to go ahead and share which college you chose, and then we'll backwards engineer sort of how that happened. So drum roll, please. Where are you going, Matteo?
I am going to UCLA.
UCLA.
I'm going to be a Bruin. I'm going to UCLA. It was my top choice for probably throughout the whole college process. Like I said, it was always between UCSB, UCLA, and USC. And ultimately, UCLA is 100% the best school for me, and I'm happy to be going there. It's a really amazing school.
Now, those of you who are listening, watching, I got permission from Matteo before, so I'm going to ask you this question. So before, you know, you decide on UCLA, lay out for everybody, you know, sort of what happened, because that wasn't originally completely a choice. So April comes around, and go ahead, you tell the story.
So to preface this first is, I got into UCSB when they released on March 21st. And I didn't get into USC around the same time. I got declined. So I was yes to UCSB, no to USC. So at that point, I was like, okay, let's see what UCLA says. You know, worst case, I don't want to say worst case scenario, because it's still a great case scenario. I'll go to UCSB, and best case scenario, I'll go to UCLA. We'll see what happens. And then I got my decision back from UCLA, and I got waitlisted. And this is interesting.
You got one of each.
Right. Yeah. I got one waitlist, one acceptance, and one decline. And so at this point in the process, I thought at the beginning of my application process, or not the beginning, but like when I first was done submitting the applications, I always thought that UCLA was going to be a school I didn't get into, just because so many kids applied. There's really no telling. UCLA had the highest applicant pool of all time this year, 146,000, something like that. Which is like, if you try and think of 146,000 people, that's like, you know, some countries have like 146,000 people. And so I always thought I was going to get into USC. And that was, you know, I wanted to go there at first, but then, you know, when I got declined, obviously, you know, I move on. But UCLA ended up being the right choice. But first, you know, I had to get off the wait list.
Yeah. What did you do so you did a wait list, and explain to people, because, you know, people who are listening have not been through this process usually, listening to it.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was my first time getting waitlisted, obviously. So I clicked on, yes, I want to accept my waitlist offer. I didn't think too much of it.
Yeah.
So I clicked yes, and then another thing popped up, and it asked me to, it gives me 7,000 characters. It wanted an update on my grades and the classes I was taking senior year. So I don't know who knows this or not, but UCs only look at your sophomore and junior year grades, and then they look at your classes that you're taking senior year, but not your grades, just to see if you're, you know, keeping up a consistent schedule with your sophomore and junior year. So they asked to see my grades for first semester senior year and my classes for second semester. So I put that in. And then it told me to write an essay about why I wanted to go to UCLA. Mm-hmm. And so at this point, I didn't really like UCLA at first, but then as I went there, I went back on like an official tour and I liked it more. And then as time went on, I really started to like it a lot. Like, it's a beautiful area. It's an amazing campus. You know, it's a great school. It's near the beach. So by then I really knew why I wanted to go there. You know, I kind of realized that USC wasn't the right fit for me. And, you know, I would tell my mom, like, you know, the pros and cons of UCSB versus UCLA, because I wanted to go to UC at that point. I was like, UCSB is like a great school. It's by the beach. And the con is like, you know, I kind of want to go to UCLA more. And then the pro of UCLA is like, it's UCLA. And the con is I didn't get in. But luckily I was on the wait list. So I wrote an essay. I wrote a super long essay, and I wrote an email as well to Mr. Gary Clark, who is the director of undergraduate admissions. And you may be like, why do I know this guy? It's because of Dr. C and her Dream College Academy. A year before, you know, little did I know I was going to be applying and now going to UCLA. A year before, he spoke to all the kids in the Dream College Academy on Zoom. And kind of like what Dr. C said about following up and following through, I asked her for his email, and I emailed him back then, and I introduced myself. I said, hi, I'm Matteo, you know, I'm this, and that. Like, it was great to meet you. That's it. That's all I said, you know, basically. But now he knew who I was. And I did the same thing with Mrs. Lisa Prescott, the director of admissions at UCSB. And sorry, it's a really quick tangent, but I ended up emailing her again and asking her to speak on a webinar for my nonprofit. So we hosted a bunch of webinars with like kids in my school and kids in Oakland, and she ended up speaking to them. So I did like my own little mini Dream College Academy. And she spoke to them about, you know, the college application process and gave more people tips. So, you know, just following up with these people, you know, it's never a bad thing. You know, their whole job is hearing students and, you know, picking students and listening to students. And so they love to hear what students have to say. And so by following up with Mr. Gary Clark and writing that long essay, I spent a long time on that essay, but I'll also say I had some good essay writing experience from, drumroll, Dr. C's essay camp. And because writing college essays is completely different than writing like a school paper or school essay. So I'd written a lot of essays in school, like for English class, history class, whatever. College essays completely different. You know, you're telling a story, you want immersive details and imagery, and you want to literally convey a story, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole different topic for another day. But I had the essay writing experience from essay camp, and I had a connection with Mr. Clark from Dream College Academy. And you know, you put all those things together, and then just a little bit later, even before the May 1st deadline, actually, I was one of the first students to get off the wait list. And I got off the wait list. I said I was going to think about it. I didn't think about it. I immediately said yes. And now I'm going to UCLA in the fall.
Oh my God. So many good nuggets in there. I mean, first of all, you know, he just said, Matteo just said, you know, he was in our essay camp and I worked with Matteo. But when it came time for that, you know, the big essay for the wait list, you know, Matteo wanted me to read through it or whatever. I had like, I think 2 comments or something. It was like not hard. You really honed your skills with that essay writing, and you knew what to say, you knew what to do. And that was all you. So like you said, I think it was just days before May 1st.
I think it was the 28th, which is like, I think it was a week after I got waitlisted to the day, which is pretty impressive, because even Mr. Clark responded and he was like, oh, you probably won't hear back until after May 1st if you got in or not off the wait list. And I heard back way before, or like 4 days before May 1st.
So good. So I like these stories because real people, real kids get off the waitlist. That does happen.
Yeah, a lot of my friends got off waitlists at all different types of schools, especially the UCs do really good with the waitlists. A lot of people I know got off the Santa Cruz waitlist, Berkeley waitlist, UC San Diego, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was with Lisa Prescott from UC Santa Barbara when we were presenting together at a conference, and there were other UC directors there too. So we knew that there was going to be movement on the wait list. So
yeah, one of my best friends got off the UCSB wait list just a couple of days after I got into UCLA. So maybe he took my spot.
Yeah, he took your spot. He should be thanking you. That's good.
Yeah, he did actually. He was like, "Hey," he texted me, said, "Hey, I got your spot at UCSB." Thanks.
Oh, Lisa will love that. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, Matteo, it's been so good to talk to you, and everything that you've shared. You've given some really good advice for those who are going to start their journey or maybe are already on their journey. So you're definitely a true inspiration to so many people. So hold on, I'm going to just do the little wrap up here and then we'll wave goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, no problem.
So let me just close it out. Ooh, gosh, this was a long one. Oh, thanks for staying with us, everybody. But I told you were really in for a treat, and Matteo is such a treat. So let's thank Matteo for being with us today. Yay. Applying to college is not for the faint of heart, but Matteo shows everyone that it's true. You just have to have the mindset, the confidence, and you can get through anything. And especially if you can get through this process, you can really get through anything in life. So if you are watching or listening and you want to learn more about the college application process, head on over to my website and to download your free gift from me. You can go to drcynthiacolon.com, or if it's easy to remember, you can also just type in Destination U University, Y-O University, and you can find a little free gift from myself. If this episode has in any way fueled your confidence or helped build your dreams, and how could it not, please share this episode with 3 people in the next 30 minutes. We'd love it if you'd also leave a review. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can hit subscribe and comment, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Parents, you can join the conversation on our Facebook group, Destination U University, and it's open to all parents, no matter the grade level of your kiddo. That's all I have for you today, my dreamers. Remember, if you are a dreamer and a doer, just like Matteo, you are welcome to join us in this family, Destination University, Dream College Academy, College Essay Bootcamp. All the things are definitely waiting for you. Join us every week, same time, same place. Until then, wherever you are, may you have a happy and sunny day. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening this week to Destination University. Be sure to join Dr. Cynthia Colon again and get one step closer to your success.